After I paid for my brother's luxury graduation banquet, my mom put a guard at the entrance with photos of my kids. Do not let them in. We turned around and left without a scene. 2 hours later, the hall manager called me directly. The banquet has been frozen, he said coldly. They're driving to your house to apologize. Don't open the door. Then the doorbell rang, and then the guard was holding 2 photographs, printed on copy paper. Landscape orientation. One was Micah's school picture from September, the one where his collar is crooked and his smile is too big for his face because the photographer told him to say cheeseburger, and Micah thought that was the funniest word anyone had ever said. The other was Iris. First grade portrait. Missing front tooth. Headband with a small bow. The face of a 7-year-old girl printed on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and held at chest height by a man in a black suit standing at the entrance to a banquet hall where 80 guests were already seated at tables my credit card had paid for. The guard looked at me. He looked at Micah beside me. He looked at Iris, who was holding Grandma Raina's vintage Polaroid camera in both hands because she had been photographing everything since we parked. The building. The sign, a pigeon on the curb, a flower growing through a crack in the sidewalk. That is what Iris does. She photographs the world as she finds it, and the world she found at 6:47 p.m. on a Saturday in June was a man blocking a door with her own face on a piece of paper. "I am sorry, ma'am," the guard said. He was not unkind. He was uncomfortable. "I have been instructed not to admit these 2 children." The event coordinator provided the photos. Who is the event coordinator? He checked his clipboard. Connie Hale, my mother. Micah read the photograph of himself. He is 10. He can read. He saw his own face held at arm's length by a stranger, and he looked at me, and his eyes did the thing they do when he is processing something that should not be real but is. The confusion that comes before the hurt. The half second where the brain checks the input twice, because the first reading cannot possibly be correct. Iris did not read anything. She raised the Polaroid camera and pressed the shutter. The flash popped, the motor whirred, the photo ejected from the slot at the bottom, and Iris caught it with one hand and held it against her dress while it developed. She had taken a photo of the guard holding a photo of her face, a picture of her own exclusion taken by her own hands at the entrance to a party her mother paid for. She did not understand the cruelty. She just saw something happening. She documented it. That is what 7-year-olds do when they carry cameras given to them by grandmothers who believed that everything worth remembering should be captured before it disappears. I took Micah's hand. I took Iris's hand. I turned around. We walked back to the car. No scene, no shouting, no confrontation at the door. Not because I did not have words, because my children were standing beside me, and the words I had were not the kind you say in front of a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old who just saw their own faces used as a reason to lock a door. In the car, Micah buckled his seatbelt and sat with his hands in his lap and said, "Mom, was that us on the paper?" "Yes. Why?" "I do not know yet." Iris held the developing Polaroid up to the window. The image was forming. The guard's suit, the white paper, her own face, small and grainy, a photograph of a photograph. She said, "It does not look like me." My tooth grew back. She was right. The photo was from September. Her front tooth had grown back in November. The guard was holding a picture of a version of Iris that no longer existed, blocking a door with a face that was already outdated. My mother had not bothered to use a recent photo. She had not updated the exclusion list, because updating it would have required looking at Iris recently, and Connie does not look at Iris unless Iris is in the way. If you are watching Family Secret Tales for the first time, welcome. This is not a story about a graduation banquet. This is a story about an $18,000 invoice, a Polaroid camera, a frozen buffet, and a doorbell that rang 2 hours after a mother decided her grandchildren's faces belonged on a security list instead of at a table. I own Hale Pharmacy. Independent 4,200 square feet on Kirby Drive in Houston. I bought it from Beryl Whitmore 5 years ago when Beryl retired at 54 because her knees could not handle 14-hour shifts behind a counter anymore. She sold it to me for $40,000 below market because she said, "You are the only pharmacist I trust with my customers. Pay me what you can. The rest is my investment in you." I paid her back in 3 years. Full amount plus the $40,000 she discounted. She did not ask for the extra. I sent it anyway. Because Beryl believed in me when my own family called my pharmacy Avery's Little Pill Shop and asked when I was going to get a real job. A real job. I fill 340 prescriptions a week. I counsel patients on drug interactions that could stop their hearts. I flag contraindicated medications that doctors miss because doctors see 30 patients a day, and I see the same 30 prescriptions, and the doctors, handwriting and the insurance rejection codes, and the look on a 70-year-old woman's face when she learns her blood pressure medication is not covered, and I find the generic, and I call the insurer, and I make it work. That is my real job. My family does not see any of that. My family sees a woman who counts pills and can afford to pay for things. Subscribe to Family Secret Tales if you know what it feels like to fund the party and get locked out of the room. The banquet was for Kip, my younger brother. 28, Emba from Rice University. Graduation ceremony in the morning, private banquet in the evening. 80 guests. Extended family, classmates, professors. Kip's girlfriend Darla and her parents. The Grandmont Hall on Montrose, a venue with vaulted ceilings and linen napkins and a bar that stocks top-shelf bourbon and a house manager named Mr. Becerra who wears a vest and calls everyone ma'am and remembers your dietary restrictions from 3 events ago. Connie called me in February. Kip deserves a celebration. He worked so hard. The Grandmont has an opening in June. The deposit is $8,000. I paid the $8,000 deposit on March 2nd. I paid the remaining $10,000 on May 15th. Total, $18,000. My name on the invoice. My card on file. My signature on the catering agreement and the bar minimum and the linen rental and the cake order from a bakery on Westheimer that charges $14 per slice for a 3-tier fondant cake with edible gold leaf and a sugar diploma on top. Connie was listed as event coordinator on the venue's paperwork because she said she wanted to handle the details. I let her. I was working 12-hour shifts and raising 2 kids alone because my ex-husband moved to Denver 3 years ago and sends birthday cards with no return addresses. I let Connie coordinate, and Connie used the coordination to print my children's faces on copy paper and hand them to a guard with instructions to block the door. She told the venue that she was managing the guest list and provided a do not admit list with 2 photos, claiming there were custody concerns about the children. The guard was venue security following what the event coordinator requested. The event coordinator was Connie. The financial guarantor was me. The venue did not know the coordinator and the guarantor were from the same family and that the coordinator was excluding the guarantor's children. Mr. Becerra told me later that in 20 years of running events, he had never seen a grandmother use a security checklist to bar her own grandchildren from a party the children's mother paid for. Kip told his classmates he had a full academic scholarship. He did not. His tuition was $86,000. Rice gave him a $28,000 merit award. The remaining $58,000 was financed. I co-signed the loan. I have been paying $1,200 a month for 24 months, $28,800. Kip has not paid $1. I paid $12,000 for Connie's dental implants, 2 upper molars and a bridge. She told Aunt Flora that Walter's insurance covered it. Walter does not have dental insurance. He has not had it since 2022. I added Connie to my commercial pharmacy dental rider because her teeth were cracking, and I thought that is what daughters do. Walter's truck insurance runs on my commercial policy, $2,800 a year for 3 years, $8,400. He told his fishing friends he found a great rate. The great rate is free. It comes from my pharmacy's operating budget. I was taught that family does not keep score. I was wrong. Family keeps score. They just hide the scoreboard from the person paying. The pattern is older than the banquet. When I graduated from pharmacy school at 25, Connie came to the ceremony. She arrived 20 minutes late. She sat in the back row. She left before the reception. She told Walter in the car it took her 7 years to finish. Kip will do his MBA in 2. Kip was 18 and had not applied to college yet. Kip did not apply to college until he was 22. He took 4 years off to find himself, which meant bartending in Austin and dating women whose names Connie never asked about, and spending money Walter wired from an account that was already thin. When Kip finally enrolled at 22, Connie posted on Facebook, "My son is going to change the world." When I opened the pharmacy at 32, Connie did not post anything. When Micah was 3, the Thanksgiving juice incident, you already know that one. What you do not know is that after I took Micah to the kitchen counter, Connie turned to Aunt Flora and said, "Avery cannot control her kids." Last week, Micah drew on the wall with a crayon. She lets him run wild because she has no help, no husband, no structure, just pills and chaos. Pills and chaos. My profession reduced to 2 words, both dismissive, both delivered at a Thanksgiving table where I had cooked the green bean casserole and the sweet potato pie and the cornbread from a recipe I taught myself, because Connie never taught me to cook. She taught Kip to make eggs. She did not teach me anything. When Iris was 4, the family portrait incident. Iris placed in the back row, hidden behind 3 adults. Connie ordered the print where Iris was looking down at her camera. She ruined the composition. Iris was 4 feet tall. She was not ruining anything. She was being positioned behind the people Connie wanted in front and then being blamed for not being visible from behind them. When Micah was 7, the family went to Kemah for Kip's birthday, a seafood restaurant with an outdoor deck overlooking the water. 12 people. Kip sat at the head. Connie sat beside him. Darla sat across. I sat at the end with Micah and Iris. The end table was near the kitchen door. Every time a waiter passed, the door swung and hit the back of Micah's chair. After the 5th time, Micah moved his chair forward. Connie said from the head of the table, "Micah, stop fidgeting. If you cannot sit still, eat in the car. Eat in the car." A 7-year-old being told to eat in a car because a swinging door hit his chair 5 times. Micah sat still for the rest of the meal. He did not fidget. He did not eat. He sat with his hands in his lap and his plate untouched and his eyes on the water beyond the deck, and he waited for the meal to end, because that is what children do when they learn that movement is punished and stillness is the only position that does not attract attention. Kip drives a leased BMW 3 Series, $580 a month, co-signed by Walter, guaranteed by the fact that Connie routes my $400 monthly household help to cover the overflow. Darla wore a $1,200 dress to the banquet, charged to a Nordstrom card Connie co-signed. Kip's apartment costs $2,400 a month, and he pays $1,800 of it because Connie covers $600 from the household fund. My household fund. My money. My pills and chaos paying for Kip's apartment and Darla's dress, and a BMW that Connie calls Kip's reward for working hard. I drive a 2019 Honda KR-V with a car seat still installed, even though Iris outgrew it 6 months ago because I have not had a free Saturday to remove it. My pharmacy coat has prescription dust in the collar. My kids' school lunches are made the night before because mornings are triage. I earn $138,000 a year from the pharmacy, and I clear about $94,000 after loan payments, operating costs, and the $400 a month to Connie, and the $1,200 a month for Kip's loans, and the $2,800 a year for Walter's truck. My take-home, after funding my family's lifestyle, is about what a first-year pharmacy tech makes. And they do not have to print their children's photos on a security list to keep them out of a building they paid for. Subscribe to Family Secret Tales and stay with me, because the next phone call changed everything. I almost called Connie from the parking lot outside the Grandmont. The kids were in the back seat, Micah quiet, Iris studying her Polaroid. The thing that stopped me was Iris's photo. The image had finished developing. The guard in his black suit. The white paper. Her face on the paper, small and blurry, the missing tooth version of a girl who had grown past that picture 6 months ago. My daughter documented her own exclusion, and she did not know she had done it. She thought she was taking a picture of something interesting. She was. The most interesting thing about that picture is that it exists. I drove home. I fed the kids. I put them to bed. Micah said, "Mom, are we not allowed at parties?" I said, "You are allowed at every party I throw." Iris put the Polaroid on her nightstand next to Rena's camera and a library book about turtles, and she said, "Good night, Mom." She did not mention the guard. She had already moved on. 7-year-olds forgive faster than they should have to. At 8:30 p.m., Aunt Flora called me. She was at the banquet. She had noticed my absence. She asked Connie where I was. Connie smiled, the same smile she uses in family portraits, and said Avery had a scheduling conflict. She could not make it. A scheduling conflict. I was in the parking lot 30 feet from the entrance with 2 children in dress clothes and a Polaroid camera and a guard who would not let us in. Flora was not satisfied with the answer. Flora is 68 years old, a retired English teacher, and she has been reading Connie's sentences for 40 years. She knows when the grammar is wrong. She knows when a sentence is constructed to hide rather than reveal. Scheduling conflict was a sentence built to hide. Flora found Kip at the bar. She asked Kip, "How did you afford all this? The Grandmont is not cheap." Kip said, "I saved for 2 years, wanted to do something nice for the family." Flora looked at his face. She looked at the $14 per slice cake. She looked at the open bar. She excused herself and walked to the ladies' room and called me. "Connie told everyone Kip paid for this himself," Flora said. "She has been saying it for months. At Easter brunch, she told your Uncle Mel, Kip saved for 2 years. He wanted to do something special. That is the story, Avery. That is what she told all of us." The room stopped spinning and started clicking, gears engaging. The guard was not about juice spills or children running or formal event protocols. The guard was about the lie. If I walked into that banquet hall, Flora would say, "Avery, this is gorgeous. Did you help with this?" And I would say, "I paid for it." And the 6-month fabrication would collapse the way a fondant cake collapses when the structural dowels are pulled, from the inside, starting at the layer nobody can see. I almost drove back to the Grandmont and walked through the door and let the truth enter the room by standing in it. The thing that stopped me was the payment receipts. They were in my email. Deposit confirmation, March 2nd. Final balance, May 15th. Catering agreement, Avery Hale. Every document had my name on it. I did not need to walk into the room. The room already had my signature on every invoice. All I needed to do was turn off the invoice. I called Mr. Becerra at 9:15 p.m. "Mr. Becerra runs the Grandmont. I have worked with him for 3 years. My pharmacy supplies the venue's first aid kits and EpiPen stations. He knows my name. He knows my voice. He knows my card number." Mr. Becerra, this is Avery Hale. I am the financial guarantor for the Hale banquet this evening. Yes, Miss Hale, the event is currently in progress. Is everything all right? No, I am placing a hold on all remaining charges. Do not serve the main course. Do not open the second bar rotation. Do not cut the cake. Pause all service until I authorize resumption. 3 seconds of silence. Ms. Hale, the appetizer course has been served. The entree is plated and ready for the kitchen. Hold it. The remaining balance of $10,000 has not been settled. Until I confirm payment, the event is on hold. Understood. I will inform the staff. What happened in that banquet hall at 9:22 p.m. is the reason my mother drove to my house in her evening dress and pounded on my door at 11 p.m. with pearls on her neck and mascara on her cheek and the specific posture of a woman who has been humiliated in front of 80 people and has decided that the humiliation is someone else's fault. The main course did not come out. 80 guests sat with empty appetizer plates and full water glasses and the specific silence that fills a room when the rhythm of service breaks and nobody explains why. Waiters stood at the kitchen pass with covered plates and did not move. The bar closed its second rotation. The bartender wiped down the counter and stepped backward and crossed his arms. The 3-tier cake, $14 per slice with gold leaf and a sugar diploma, sat on its pedestal under the chandelier, and nobody cut it because nobody had authorization. Mr. Becerra walked to the head table. He leaned toward Connie and said, quietly enough that only the head table heard, Mrs. Hale, we have a billing matter with the event's financial guarantor. All service has been paused until the matter is resolved. Connie's face went through 4 stages in 3 seconds. Confusion, her eyebrows drew together. Recognition, her eyes widened. Calculation, her jaw tightened. And then the 4th stage, the one that has no name, the expression of a woman who has spent 6 months building a lie and has just heard the foundation crack. Kip stood up, his $900 suit, his Emba confidence. What billing matter? I was told this was paid for. Becerra kept his voice level. The guarantor has placed a hold on remaining service charges. The deposit has been settled. The balance has not been authorized for release. Kip looked at Connie. Connie did not look at Kip. She reached for her water glass. Her hand trembled. Not the glass, the hand. The specific tremor of a woman whose performance has been interrupted by reality. Aunt Flora, seated at table 3 between her husband and 2 of Walter's brothers, said the sentence that cracked everything open. She said it at conversational volume, which in a silent room carries like a shout, "Connie, I thought Kip paid for all of this." No answer. Connie lifted the water glass and drank and set it down, and the glass left a ring on the linen that nobody wiped. One of Kip's classmates at table 6 leaned to his seatmate and whispered, "Wait, who actually paid for this?" The seatmate shook her head. At table 8, Darla's mother turned to Darla and said something Darla did not answer. At the head table, Walter adjusted his tie. He looked at his empty plate. He has been adjusting things and studying plates for 37 years, and tonight the tie was already straight, and the plate was already empty, and there was nothing left to rearrange. Connie stood up. She walked to the kitchen. She found Becerra. She said, "Resume the service. I will cover the balance." Becerra said, "Ma'am, the hold was placed by the cardholder. Only the cardholder can release it. I am the event coordinator. The cardholder is Miss Avery Hale. She is the financial guarantor. I need her authorization." Connie called me. I did not answer. She called again. I did not answer. She texted, "Avery, release the hold. You are embarrassing Kip." I did not respond. She called Walter. Walter called me. I did not answer. The banquet ended at 10:15 p.m. Not with cake, not with toasts, not with the speech Kip had written on index cards and practiced in front of the mirror at Darla's apartment. The banquet ended with 80 people standing up, folding their napkins, and walking toward the exit past a cake that was never cut, and a bar that was never reopened, and a room full of tables that looked like a restaurant after a health inspection shutdown. Except the health code was fine. The financial code was not. Mr. Becerra called me at 10:45 p.m. His voice was professional and measured. The voice of a man who has managed banquets for 2 decades and has seen champagne toasts and first dances and 60-year anniversary speeches, and has never in 20 years seen a grandmother put her grandchildren's photographs on a security checklist. Miss Hale, the Hale party has concluded. The event coordinator and several family members departed approximately 15 minutes ago. I overheard conversations indicating they intend to drive to your residence. Based on the tone of those conversations, I would advise caution. He paused. Do not open the door. He said it the way a pharmacist says do not take these two together. Not as a command, as professional guidance. One person who handles delicate situations advising another person who is about to face one. Thank you, Mr. Becerra, Miss Hale. For what it is worth, I have your children's photos from the security file. I removed them from the guard station. They are in an envelope at the front desk. You can pick them up at your convenience. They should not have been on that clipboard. Thank you. The guard did not want to do it. He told me afterward. He said the little girl took a picture of him and he felt terrible. He has a daughter the same age. I said thank you one more time, and I hung up and I sat at the counter with Beryl and waited for the doorbell. It rang at 11:08 p.m. Beryl Whitmore was already in my kitchen. I had called her at 10 p.m. She drove over in 12 minutes. She was sitting at the counter with a cup of tea and the Polaroid photo Iris had taken, which she had picked up and studied without asking, and then sat back down and said, "You paid for the party, and she put your children's faces on a do not enter list. That is not family, Avery. That is a client relationship. And you just fired the client." Beryl was in the kitchen with the kids asleep down the hall when the doorbell rang, then the knocking. Then Connie's voice through the door. "Avery, open the door. We need to talk about this. You humiliated us." 80 people saw the service stop. Kip's professors were there, his classmates, Darla's parents. You ruined his night. I opened the door. Connie was in her evening dress. Black pearls, the outfit she selected for a banquet she told 80 people her son paid for. Her mascara had run at the left eye, a dark smear that tracked from her lower lash line to her cheekbone like a crack in plaster. Walter was behind her on the second step, hands in pockets, eyes on the porch light. Kip was in the car at the curb, engine running, headlights on, not getting out. Darla was not with him. Darla had left the banquet separately. That detail would matter later. "You froze my son's graduation banquet," Connie said. "I froze my banquet. My name is on the invoice. My card is on the deposit. My signature is on the catering agreement. It is my banquet, Mom. You told 80 people Kip paid for it. You told Aunt Flora he saved for 2 years. You told his classmates he funded the celebration himself. None of that is true. The $18,000 came from me. Every dollar. He contributed. He contributed nothing. $8,000 deposit in March. $10,000 balance in May. My card. My name. When Mr. Becerra had a question about the bar minimum, he called me. When the cake baker needed a flavor confirmation, she emailed me. When the linen company needed a signed contract, they sent it to my address. Every document in the Grandmont's file has Avery Hale at the top and Connie Hale nowhere. Connie tried the children angle. She softened her voice, the shift she makes when the demand voice fails, and she switches to the wounded mother register. The children could not attend because this was a formal event. Iris spilled juice at Thanksgiving. Micah spilled juice. Not Iris. He was 3. He is 10 now, and you know that is not why you put the guard at the door. I was managing the guest list. Large events need structure. You told the venue there were custody concerns about my children. You lied to a security guard about my kids to keep them out of a building I paid $18,000 to rent. There are no custody concerns, Mom. I have full custody. Their father lives in Denver. You fabricated a story to exclude a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old from a party their mother funded, because if I walked through that door, one person in that room would have asked who paid, and the answer would have ended the version of events you have been selling for 6 months. Connie's hand went to the doorframe. Her fingers pressed white against the wood. Her lower lip pulled sideways and trembled. Her left eye, the one with the mascara smear, blinked 4 times fast. The pearls at her neck moved with her breathing, which had gone shallow and arrhythmic, the breathing of a woman who has lost the rhythm of her own performance. I was protecting Kip's night. He deserved to be celebrated without everything becoming about you. Everything is about me, Mom, the $28,800 in student loan payments, the $12,000 for your dental implants, the $8,400 for Dad's truck insurance, the $14,400 in household help that went to Kip's BMW payment and his bar tabs and Darla's Valentine's dinner. Everything in this family runs because I write the check. And tonight you hired a man to hold my daughter's face at a door because the check was finally writing back. I almost stopped there. The thing that stopped me from stopping was the Polaroid on the kitchen counter behind me. Iris's photo, the guard in his suit, the paper in his hands, her face on the paper. A 7-year-old's record of her own exclusion, taken by a camera her dead grandmother gave her because Rena believed that the truth should be captured before it disappears. The banquet receipt says Avery Hale. The guard had my daughter's face on a printout. Tell me again who does not belong. Connie's hand slid down the doorframe. Her knees did not buckle, but they shifted, the way a structure shifts when the load-bearing wall is removed. Her mouth opened and no sound came. Walter, behind her, took 1 step backward off the porch step onto the walkway. The geometry of a man who has never stepped forward in 37 years, taking his most natural step backward. I closed the door. Connie stood on the porch for 9 minutes. Beryl watched from the kitchen. She did not narrate what she saw. She said only 3 things, spaced across those 9 minutes. She is still out there. Walter got in the car. She is leaving. Then Beryl poured 2 cups of tea. She set one in front of me. She picked up the Polaroid from the counter and looked at it for a long time. The guard, the paper, Iris's face. Then she set it back down and she said, "You paid for the party," and she printed your children's faces on a do not enter list. That is not family, Avery, that is a client relationship. And tonight you fired the client. We sat at the counter. The tea was chamomile. The house was quiet. Micah and Iris were asleep. The Polaroid sat between us, a small square document of a moment that no one in the family would ever be able to deny because it was taken by a 7-year-old with a camera her grandmother gave her, and 7-year-olds do not fabricate evidence. They just point the camera at whatever is in front of them and press the button. Beryl stayed until midnight. She did not ask if I was okay. She knew I was not okay. She knew I was something harder than okay. I was finished. Finished paying, finished funding, finished sending Zells and co-signing loans and adding riders to policies and writing checks for banquets where my children's faces were printed on exclusion lists instead of place cards. Finished, that is a different word than okay. It is quieter, it is heavier, and it is final. On Monday, Kip came to the pharmacy. During business hours, 2 customers at the consultation counter. Beryl's old tech Janine was behind the glass filling a prescription for a woman who comes in every Tuesday for her blood pressure medication. The pharmacy smelled like antiseptic and paper bags and the faint sweetness of children's liquid amoxicillin from the compounding station. My pharmacy. My counter. My name on the door. Kip walked in wearing the $900 suit. He stood at the consultation window. He waited until one of the customers moved aside, and then he said, "Avery, I need to talk to you." Talk? I did not know about the guard. Mom did it without telling me. I would never exclude Micah and Iris. You know that. I do not know that, Kip. What I know is that you told your classmates you had a full academic scholarship. His chin dropped. The merit award covered a significant portion. The merit award was $28,000 out of $86,000 in tuition. The remaining $58,000 is financed. I co-signed. I have been paying $1,200 a month for 24 months, $28,800 from my account. You have paid zero. That is not a scholarship. That is a pharmacy on Kirby Drive running your education while you tell people you did it yourself. The customer at the counter, a man in his 50s picking up a statin prescription, looked at Kip, looked at me, picked up his bag and walked to the door without making eye contact with either of us. Janine kept filling behind the glass. She did not look up. She did not need to. She has worked in pharmacies for 22 years, and she has seen conversations like this happen at counters before. Conversations where the professional space becomes a family space because someone showed up without an appointment and forced the collision. I pulled the student loan payment history onto my desktop screen and turned the monitor toward him. 24 lines, $1,200 each, auto-drafted from my business account. My name on every transaction. Sign the reimbursement agreement or the next conversation is between your loan servicer, my accountant, and the co-signer release form I filed yesterday. Your payments start August 1st. Independent without me. Kip looked at the screen. He looked at the second customer, a woman in scrubs who was pretending to read a vitamin label and clearly listening. He picked up the pen from the consultation counter. He held it for 4 seconds. He set it down. He walked out. The bell above the door chimed once. The woman in scrubs looked at me. She said, "You are Hale Pharmacy, right?" I said, "Yes." She said, "I am transferring my prescriptions here." She was not saying it because of the drugs. She was saying it because she had watched a woman stand behind her own counter and say the truth to a man in a $900 suit, and she respected the counter more than the suit. Kip called Connie from the parking lot. I know because Connie called me 14 minutes later. I did not answer. She left a voicemail. "You are tearing this family apart, Avery. I am not tearing anything apart. I am removing the stitches that were holding it together, and the stitches were made of my prescriptions and my payments and my daughter's missing tooth photo on a guard's clipboard." The fallout came in layers, each layer a canceled payment, each canceled payment a scene. I canceled the $1,200 student loan autopay on June 15th. Kip's first independent payment was due August 1st. He missed it. The servicer called his phone. He called Connie. Connie called Walter. Walter called me at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday. I answered this one. He said, "Avery, Kip's loan payment bounced." I said, "His loan, his payment, his responsibility." Walter was quiet for 6 seconds. Then, "He cannot cover $1,200 and the BMW and the apartment." I said, "He earns $72,000, Dad. He told his classmates he had a full scholarship. He told Darla he was independent. He told 80 people at a banquet I paid for that he built this himself. Let him build the payment." Walter hung up. He did not call again. Kip missed the second payment in September. His credit dropped 28 points. The merit scholar with the self-funded banquet and the full scholarship and the $900 suit could not produce $1,200 a month from a $72,000 salary, because $72,000 is not enough when you subtract the BMW lease and the $2,400 apartment and the bar tabs that used to be covered by money routed through Connie's checking from my $400 monthly household contribution. The pipeline was dry. The BMW is now a calculation he cannot complete. I canceled Connie's dental payment plan. Remaining balance, $4,800. The oral surgeon's office sent a notice. Connie called the office and said there was an error. There was no error. The guarantor withdrew. Connie owed $4,800 to a practice that does not extend credit without a co-signer. She called me. I did not answer. She called Beryl's pharmacy landline. Beryl answered and said, "Connie, this is a pharmacy. We fill prescriptions. We do not fill payment plans." Beryl hung up. That is Beryl. One sentence. The door closed and locked. I removed Walter's Ford Ranger from my commercial insurance policy. The carrier sent a cancellation notice. Walter's fishing buddy sells insurance. Walter called him for a quote. The quote, $3,200 a year, $400 more than the rate he had been getting for free on his daughter's policy. Walter paid the first quarter himself with a check from a savings account that is thinner every month because the daughter who used to subsidize his life has stopped subsidizing it. Aunt Flora became the family's fact checker. She called every aunt, uncle, and cousin who had been at the banquet. She told them who paid for it. She told them about the guard. She told them about the printed photos of Micah and Iris. She did not embellish. She reported. Flora is a retired English teacher. She knows that facts do not need adjectives. The facts traveled through the Hale family the way a correction travels through a newspaper, quietly, permanently, on page 2 where the original lie ran on page 1. Darla broke up with Kip in July. She told a mutual friend. He told me the banquet was his. He told me the scholarship was full. He told me he was independent. I do not know what else he told me that I believed because I wanted to. The mutual friend told Flora. Flora told me. I did not feel satisfaction. I felt the specific weight of a woman who spent $28,800 funding a version of her brother that his girlfriend fell in love with and that did not exist. Here's the part that stays. Connie drove to the Grandmont Hall the week after the banquet. She had called Mr. Becerra to settle the remaining balance herself. Becerra told her the balance was under review and the guarantor's dispute was pending. She came anyway. She sat at a table in the empty hall for 25 minutes. The tables were stripped of linen. The chairs were stacked against the walls. The cake stand was empty. The chandelier was dimmed to its lowest setting, the amber glow that the Grandmont uses when the hall is between events and the room is waiting to become something else. Connie sat in the chair where she had sat at the head table, the chair where she was going to deliver a toast about Kip's hard work and independence and self-made success, the toast she had written on a card she kept in her purse. The toast she never gave because the caterer stopped plating and the bar stopped pouring and the cake never got cut because the person who paid for all of it pulled the invoice out from under the frosting and the whole structure came down. She looked at 80 empty chairs and a room that had been full 4 hours earlier and was now the quietest place in Houston. No Polaroid, no Iris, no Micah, no Avery. No one to photograph the empty room because the person with the camera had been barred from entering it. The room she curated to exclude her grandchildren was now excluding everyone, including her. The chandelier buzzed on its lowest setting. The sugar diploma on the uncut cake had begun to soften in the humidity, and Connie Hale sat alone at a table meant for 80 people, and she did not adjust anything, and she did not manage anything, and for the first time in 62 years there was no version of events to construct, because the only person left in the room was the person who had constructed. All the versions and every one of them had left through the door she could not lock. A Sunday morning in August. My backyard. Small yard. Chain link fence with jasmine growing through the links. A magnolia tree Beryl helped me plant the year I bought the house. She held the root ball while I shoveled. She said, "A pharmacy needs a tree the way a patient needs a prescription." Something alive. Something that grows. The magnolia is 12 feet tall now. It blooms in May. The petals fall on the grass like dropped napkins, and Iris photographs each one before the wind takes it. Micah and Iris are on a picnic blanket with pastries from a bakery on Kirby Drive that is not the bakery that made the $14 a slice fondant cake nobody ate. These pastries cost $3.50 each. Bear claws. Apple turnovers. A chocolate croissant for Iris because chocolate croissants are the only baked good she will eat without negotiation. They are perfect, not because they are expensive, because they are chosen, because they are shared, because nobody at this table was screened at the gate. Beryl arrives at 10 a.m. with coffee and a bag of peaches from the farmer's market and the specific energy of a woman who retired from a pharmacy counter and redirected all that standing for 14 hours stamina into showing up for other people. She sits on the blanket. She takes off her sandals. She hands Micah a peach and says, "Do not let the juice get on the blanket." She says it the way Connie would say it. Except Beryl smiles when she says it, and Micah smiles back. And the juice does get on the blanket, and nobody stands up, and nobody says this is why children do not belong, and nobody moves anybody to the kitchen counter. Iris picks up the Polaroid. She frames the three of them, Beryl with peach juice on her chin. Micah, mid-bite with his eyes crossed because he is 10, and crossing your eyes while eating a peach is the funniest thing in the world, and Iris's own arm stretched at the edge of the frame because she has not mastered the selfie angle yet, and she does not care, because the photo is not for an audience. The photo is for the camera. The camera is for Raina. Raina is for the family. And the family is here, on a blanket, in a yard, under a magnolia tree, with no guard and no clipboard and no printed faces at any door. The Polaroid ejects. Iris catches it with one hand. She holds it against her dress while it develops. She does not look at it yet. She waits. Rena taught her that good photographs develop in patience, not in sunlight. You let the chemicals work. You let the image arrive on its own schedule. You do not rush a picture any more than you rush a prescription or a person or a child who is still becoming who she is. Is it done yet? Micah asks. Not yet. She waits another 10 seconds. Then she lifts the photo and holds it up, and the morning light passes through the white border, and the image appears. 3 people on a blanket who are wanted, who are present, who belong exactly where they are. No guard at the door, no photos on a clipboard, no pearls and no mascara smear, and no empty banquet hall with 80 chairs and nobody in them. Just a blanket and peaches and a camera that was built to capture the moments nobody tries to lock out. This one is good, Iris says. It is.